Good afternoon, everyone. I am Coach Keon Smith from ActionCOACH Guyana, and welcome to our webinar today. Today, we're going to be looking at COVID-19 and its effect on businesses and ActionCOACH Caribbean perspective. To all the persons who are tuned in to our social media platform, we want to say pleasant good afternoon and welcome to you all. It's always a pleasure to have your support in the virtual world. I will encourage you for the information that is going to be shared today to ensure that you love the video, and of course, be sure to share it, especially with persons who you believe can use the information that will be shared here today. It is my pleasure to be your congenial host for this particular web series, as we're going to be speaking with coaches from across the Caribbean. Today, in particular, I'd like to give you just a quick outline of how our session is going to go today. We're going to, first of all, commence with a panel discussion as the coaches will share their responses on two questions that I have formulated with respect to COVID 19 and its effect on businesses. Each of the coaches will then share a 5 to 10 minute presentation with regards to a topic that they feel very strongly about, and they're willing to share that information with you, our beautiful listening audience. After that, we're going to open our series to questions and answers. So, persons out there who are tuned in on our social media platform, please be sure to have your questions. You can send your questions in the chat, and we'll be able to take your questions to the panel. Once that is completed, we will then wrap up our presentation for today. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's get started. Let me introduce you to our panelists for today. First, I'm going to start with Mr. Arthur Wizera. He is an award winning business and executive coach with Action Coach for the past 9 years. Prior to that, he was an international banker with 23 years of experience. Arthur also owns the Action Coach franchise that governs the Dutch Caribbean. Good afternoon, Arthur.
Good afternoon, Keon, and to the listeners. Excited to be here and share what we've learned in the Dutch Caribbean, especially in Curacao, to the broader Caribbean.
Thank you very much, Arthur. And I will just continue along on the screen. Next, we have Mr. Dave Martinez, who is an award winning action coach as well out of Aruba. Dave has been very focused and is one of the coaches that I believe has really shown the congruence when it comes to setting his own goals as well and knocking them out of the park. Please welcome Coach Dave Martinez.
Thank you, Kian. For me, also a pleasure to be present and to share our experiences that we have from Aruba. So I'm looking forward to share all we have experienced and learned during this crisis moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Coach Dave. Next, we have Coach Dr. Indira Couch. She is from Trinidad. She brings over 25 years of multi industry, general management, and cross functional experience in the UK and Jamaica. Indira has also received several local, regional, and global awards for her work, including being named winner of the Action Club 2018 Top Coach Award for North America and also Rookie Coach of the Year for Engage and Grow in 2019. She continues to be ranked in the top 10 globally as an Engage and Grow coach. Please welcome Dr. Indira Coach.
Thank you very much, Kian, and really excited to see everyone as we've not been able to see each other for a long time. So really an honor and privilege to be here. So thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Next, we have Coach Marcia Woon Choi from Jamaica. She's a CEO and founder of MWC Associates Limited, a consulting and training company which she founded in 2007. In 2010, she became the owner of the first Action Coach franchise in Jamaica. After 4 outstanding years, she bought the license to operate the Action Coach Jamaica firm with exclusive rights to the Jamaica market. She has the distinction of having six of her firm's Jamaican clients win the prestigious Action Coach Business Excellence Forum Awards for the Americas. She's also a John Maxwell team speaker, trainer, and coach, and also a licensed Engage and Grow team engagement coach. Please welcome Coach Marcia Wunchoi.
Thank you very much, Kiana and team, and I look forward to sharing with our listeners today. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our neighboring Suriname, and we have Coach Williamsburg. Rose has more than 20 years of experience in several management and executive positions. She knows from experience which challenges face members of executive management teams and also what they can do in terms of what they encounter in small economies like Suriname. She is a certified business coach since 2011. Please welcome Coach Rose.
Thank you very much. I look forward in sharing and taking part in this webinar. A great welcome from Suriname.
Thank you very much, Coach Rose. Next, but certainly not least, we have Coach Dr. Vishnu Durga. As the past president, chairman, and counselor of many business support organizations, including the Georgetown Chamber and Commerce, the National Bureau of Standards, Vishnu has over 17 years of private sector development service. Coming from a mechanical engineering background, he is now a certified business coach, mentor, trainer, and speaker. He's also an MBA lecturer and he holds a doctorate in management, specializing in entrepreneurship. Please welcome Dr. Vishnu Durga.
Hi, thank you very much, Kian, and thank you, fellow panelists, fellow coaches. This is our Caribbean team. Very happy to be with you on a panel today, and I really look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Dr. Durga. So, all the persons who are tuned in to our social media platforms, we are bringing a perspective from six different territories, well, more than six, including if you do Bonaire and Curacao. So we're going to be having a very fruitful discussion here today. And I would like to first of all commence with our panel discussion. And I'll pose this question to our panelists. I would like to remind our panelists to adhere to our time limit so that the audience can make sure they get the full impact of our session today within our time frame. My first question to our panelists and to listen audience, after I ask the first question, I will remove myself from the stream so we'll have the panelists up and they will go in the order. I will begin with Coach Dave, followed by Rose, Arthur, Dr. Indira, Coach Marcia, and we'll culminate with Coach Vishnu. So just as I ask the question, I will remove myself on screen so the persons can be in your full view. So the first question to our panel, how has or is COVID-19 affecting businesses in your region? How has or is COVID-19 affecting businesses in your region? So Coach Dave, you take the first shot at this.
Thank you, Kian. Well, the effect is different on different levels. First of all, I guess one of the main issues that has been challenged all of the businesses being having to close their doors actually, and having to adapt to a new normal where we actually when you try to go out and to do business, you're not supposed to, and you're locked in your house and you're locked. So everyone had to adapt to go to an online platform. So the main effect is, how do I get through and get to the clients? How do I get to my prospects, and which usually come and do that transaction with us. One of the main challenges, for example, that we have here in Aruba is that for a long time we have been discussing and talking about how can we do online transactions, and so suddenly we got ourselves confronted with the fact that a lot of companies could not do online transactions. So for us, this is one of the main areas that affected most of the businesses, not being able to do transactions, get to their customers, and still get their cash flowing. And once the cash starts getting lower, then the other kind of troubles comes in. So mainly for us is being the transactions that couldn't be processed, even that people had to work on a virtual platform. So for me is that.
Thank you very much, Coach Dave. That was well put. We will now hear from Coach Rose from Suriname.
Okay. Suriname has been affected by the crisis, the COVID-19 crisis, in much of similarly as the island, although we're not in Suriname as dependent on tourism as normally the islands do. So with us it's a little different. But we do have an additional crisis because just prior to the COVID-19, we had a massive economical crisis with 100% inflation within 2 months. So that shook our business community. And then on top of that, we had COVID-19. And then on top of that, we had all kinds of measures from the government about exchange rates and so on. So on top of COVID-19, we had total chaos and uncertainty because nobody exactly knew what was going to happen. What we experienced is a lot of businesses adjusted. They adjusted quickly to what I've my experience. They adjusted quickly. The same issues are here to taking business virtually, working at home, and so on. Business owners grappling with the new situation. On top of that, it is also difficult for them to get a hold of the day-to-day operations because most of my clients and a lot of businesses I know have children that go to school, and they don't go to school. Everything is closed, so they have to homeschool their children, and that means they're home half of the time dealing with their children, or they're splitting the load between mom and dad, and that's it. It adds to the chaos. So what we see is a very challenging situation for business owners here. At the end of the month, we have elections, so that is a lot of buzzing going around. So it's how do I say? It's extremely challenging for everybody, but I see that everybody is very creative. The business owners are very creative into finding ways to survive, and but it hit us very hard.
Thank you very much for your perspective, Coach Rose. So next, we're gonna hear from Coach Arthur, who's gonna share his perspective on the question.
Yes, thank you, Guillaume. Yeah, from our side here in Curacao, we were locked down for a number of weeks. Actually, Curacao has partially opened up since yesterday. One of the things that I thought was very interesting is we only had a few industries or a few businesses that could operate, and that was mostly the drugstores, supermarkets, and so on. So one of the things that it has made other businesses realize is, who do I want when you do business to business? Who do you want as your customers? And I believe many businesses will start looking at getting what we call essential businesses as customers, because they are able to continue doing business in times of crisis, and they were one of the few businesses that had cash flow coming in. On the other side, businesses that service-based businesses, as Dave said, we've had to move online with ActionCOACH. The majority of my clients were being coached through Zoom or Skype anyway, but now also all the group coaching sessions are also online. And before, many people used to say, well, we don't want to do this, we want to see you in person, but we've had great sessions, and this is going to be the new normal. Many businesses will have to go either partially or fully online in order to be able to deal with the new situation.
Thank you very much, Coach Arthur. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Indira, Coach Indira, who's going to share her perspective on this question.
Thank you. That's a great point, Arthur. All those people who said all the things that they couldn't do, and now, look at what's happened, right? So it's amazing the shifts that have happened. So in our country, Trinidad and Tobago is actually much more dependent on tourism, so it has been quite severely impacted. Not that Trinidad has this either, because we're also very heavily dependent. We're an oil and gas economy. We also do quite a lot of manufacturing, so both countries have been, impacted. What happened with us initially is that some businesses, it was sort of staggered in terms of the closure and the lockdown. And so initially, a lot of the fast food chains were open, but that quickly came to an end. And then we were pretty much in lockdown for all businesses, with the exception of essential services. And so, yes, it's been very stressful time for many businesses, especially those in the non-essential services, and they had to take some really sort of very critical steps in terms of closing the business. I would say, however, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has acted very promptly and has been very good in terms of the social services part, in terms of ensuring that there were, the people had some amount of percentages of their wages, the remuneration was at least given to them, so that even if some businesses had to close down and even had to lay people off, that they at least can have some amount of a salary percentage because of their contribution to the social services net. But also, even those who were not, the informal sector, were still able to access some amount of money to survive, and food stamps, etc. So and to Arthur's point, what's also been interesting is a lot of my clients also use the opportunity to be able to still manufacture their goods and have them present in the essential services. So the supermarkets and the pharmacies, for example. So some of my clients who are in bakery business, for example, were still able to service the supermarkets and the pharmacies, etc. And other clients who were able to pivot very quickly if they were in manufacturing and get into the manufacturing of masks, for example. But
Yeah.
yes, it was a very, very busy time for us. We had many sleepless nights, really just positioning our clients and getting them ready for managing the lockdown. And ultimately, we will continue to work with them to survive and thrive through this.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Coach Indira, for your perspective. We are now going to be hearing from Coach Marcia Wunchoi from Jamaica as she gives her perspective on the question.
Thank you, Keon. Okay, so what's happening in Jamaica is that Jamaica is primarily driven by tourism. And when our borders were locked, most, if not all, of our hotels have now been closed. And so we had massive layoffs in that industry. And of course, that had its impact on spin off industries from it as well. We're also heavily dependent on remittances. And with that coming to a slower inflow, we have seen as well a lot of impact on the foreign exchange rate. So we don't have tourism where we can earn US dollars. Remittances, which was a big part of our US earnings in the country, has also been reduced. So we are seeing an impact on the exchange rate. As Coach Dave shared, in our business community, everyone has now been forced to go online with their banking transactions, which actually is a very positive. Many times we are forced to do things in a crisis that we didn't want to do before. So as Indy said, many businesses are having to pivot now. They're going online. We've seen so many restaurants, so many supermarkets as well offering either online, ordering where you can order online and pick up, as well as they will deliver. So we're seeing many people pivot to be able to deal with the challenges. Manufacturing here also, people have now had to go into different industries, and we also have the farmers also who now used to supply the tourism industry now having to supply the local market and still having a surplus. So overall, it's having an impact on all sectors.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Coach Marcia, for your perspective. And we're going to culminate this panel discussion with the perspective of Coach Vishnu. So thank you very much, Coach Marcia. Getting tongue-tied today. So, Coach Vishnu, could I have your perspective on the question?
Thank you very much, Keon. As of to date, we have nearly 100 cases, confirmed cases of COVID in Guyana, with about 10 deaths. And we have a curfew order that was instituted that initially expired on May 3rd, which has now been extended to June 3rd, which lists several essential services that are able to continue operating on a 24-hour basis. And these do cover, the majority of our main industries: oil and gas, mining, and forestry. And of course, the police force, all the health services. And then we have several businesses. And when we did an analysis, it's almost 30% of the other businesses that are able to operate on a somewhat limited basis between 6 a.m. in the morning and 5 p.m. in the afternoon, after which the curfew comes in effect at 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next morning. Now, the enforcement of this is being stepped up. We have seen the cases are pretty much on a very stable level. I believe that during the month of May, if we have an increase in cases, or if the cases remain at the same level, we might even have the curfew extend further into June. If we have a decrease in cases and a decrease in deaths, there's a likelihood as well that we may come to an end of the curfew sometime in June. Now, this is affecting many livelihoods because, or my opinion, and I think it goes across the ActionCOACH world, is that, every business is essential in the way that it provides income for a family. And across the Caribbean still, we're not a very high income earning region. So many people still live, the salary they have is what takes them through the month. They don't necessarily have a lot of savings put away that they can remain locked in their house and get all the supplies coming in. So we do need to pay attention to how can we either work remotely safely, or how can we move forward, because COVID isn't just going to disappear over the next couple of weeks, months, and maybe even a year. How can we move forward and be able to deliver what we do in a very safe way?
Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu, for your perspective on that question. Now I have another question for the panel, and I would like to ask them to respond as quickly as they can. And the next question is going to be more specifically, what are two measures that your country or your region has implemented to deal with COVID-19? And what do you think is its effect, either from a social or an economic standpoint? So, two things that your country or region has put in place to deal with COVID-19, and what do you think is its effect, either from a social and or an economic perspective? So I'm going to ask my coaches to be very crisp with their responses, and I'm going to start with Dr. Indira, and I know that she has started to touch on some of those measures already, so she's just bringing together in a nice nutshell for us today. Doctor.
Thank you. I mean, in addition to our governments, as I would have mentioned, and also the associations which have been working very closely with the banks. So the banks have also been very similarly to across the Caribbean in terms of the moratoriums, in terms of various appeals from the leaderships of the leadership in certainly Trinidad and Tobago, appealing to landlords and those who, have not just landlords of businesses, but also individuals to be, a little bit more lenient during this time. But also there's rebates as well that the government is offering in terms of rentals as well, to some persons. And obviously this is being done in a sort of screened way. So from a coming back point of view, in terms of, really what we need next is some really good ideas of incentives, because we need something to really take us back up. And those, I think, in terms of even taxes and just kind of moratoriums on those are being, they've been managed and communicated. So I think we're looking forward to some of those things. We'd like to see obviously a little bit more for the SME sector, but we're working on that to try and see how much influence we can have with regards to that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Coach Indira. We're now going to hear from Coach Arthur from his perspective on the question: what measures have been in place and its effect, either from a social or an economic standpoint? Coach Arthur.
Thank you, Keon. One of the things that was implemented here in Curacao, the government requested, and I have to say the financial institutions have answered that fully by granting a grace period for both business and personal loans for a period of 3 months, and that's including interest and principal repayments have been put on hold, which has given which was good because a lot of people didn't have enough cash. And also the government implemented a program whereby they funded up to 80% of the wages of the workers where companies have been affected and were not able to pay out 100% of the wages. The government supplemented up to 80% depending on the wages, depending on how much the company has seen a decrease in their revenues.
Wow, excellent. Thank you very much, Coach Arthur, for your perspective. I will now hear from Coach Dave as he gives his perspective from Aruba.
Yes, just as Arthur also mentioned, that's a little bit what also has been implemented here in Aruba. I think that was of great impact, of course, because just as Marcia mentioned before, we are pretty dependent on the tourism. So one of the main impacts, of course, was closing the borders of Aruba, and so all the almost whole tourism is shut down. So that's enormous impact. One of the nice things, I think, one of the good things that looking forward is going to be done is going to be implemented by the government, is that we will have to start dealing with a new process of social distancing and sanitizing. So in order to look forward, the government is implementing a new way to build trust within the tourism, especially the hotels and apartments. So you will have to certify to your company that you have all the rules in place Once you have that certification, that means that you have complied also with some regulations, looking forward, so we can restart our tourism. So that definitely will have a positive impact in order to build the trust back, so we can move back our economy with the tourism.
Good. Thank you very much, Coach Dave, for your perspective. We're now going to hear from Coach Rose from Suriname as regards to what Suriname is currently implementing to deal with COVID-19.
Thank you, Kian. With respect to Suriname, we did the usual stuff. We closed our borders and the air traffic, and schools got closed. We didn't have a complete lockdown for businesses. We were left a little bit free, but we saw that a lot of businesses voluntarily closed their doors. Also, essential businesses like supermarkets, some of them voluntarily closed their door, but it was not compulsory from the government standpoint. We did have curfew from 6 o'clock in the from 8 o'clock at night till 6 o'clock in the morning. Nobody can go outside, so that's very stringent. Apart from that, we don't have a lot of program. It is difficult for us to know what the impact is from an economic standpoint, because we don't have access to statistics here in Suriname. We assume it's quite an impact, but at this point we are just guessing. What has been done also from the banks on the loans, lenient on loans, and granting grace periods, those kind of things. The bank did also, and from rent and so on, has been done voluntarily by the landlords, being lenient for businesses as well as private persons. That those are the main things that here in Suriname has been done, but a lot of stuff has been going back and forth voluntarily between people. We don't have a lot of extra cases. The measure seems to be working from our government standpoint. We only had one death, confirmed death, COVID. And I think as of 1 or 2 weeks, we stopped having new cases, or very few. So we are very low in new cases, and confirmed deaths is one. So they were pretty effective in that from that standpoint. But yes, we see a lot of effect on businesses, and yeah, it's a difficult time here in Suriname, as well as social distancing. Well, yeah, here in Suriname we adjust very quickly. People make jokes and so on, but it's hard on everybody. So that's our update, considering all the things that are going on, the measurements and so on. A lot of things being done voluntarily by people.
Thank you very much, Coach Rose, and definitely we need to make sure that we play our part to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Thank you for sharing. We're now going to be hearing from Coach Marcia out of Jamaica and what Jamaica is doing currently to deal with the COVID-19 crisis.
Thank you, Keon. So in Jamaica, very similar to what is happening in the other countries, but our government responded with a program called CARE, and it is a fiscal response to help to alleviate and cushion the adverse economic impact of COVID-19 on our resident Jamaican individuals and small businesses. And as of April 16th, it was oversubscribed. We had 388,000 applications for that compassionate grant. And our private sector has really stepped up to help people in various areas. So has the banks in terms of moratorium on some loans as well. So we have seen both a private sector and a government response to the crisis in Jamaica.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Coach Marcia, and thank you to all of our panelists. We're now going to hear from our final speaker on this particular topic. Coach Vishnu is going to share his perspective on what is happening here in Guyana with regards to COVID-19 and the measures in place.
Hi,
Dr.
thank you very much, Keon. Well, in Guyana, we do face a very unique situation where we did have an election on March 3rd, which came nearly 14 months after no confidence motion was successfully passed. So not only did we have about 14 months of relative inactivity by the government, we also ended up now with an election which has not yet been concluded, 2 months after it actually took place. We are now currently dealing with a recount situation that might go anywhere. It's scheduled to be 25 days, but at the pace that they're going with, it might not be completed within that time. And all of these delays are severely affecting Guyana's economic development on the one hand, although we have discovered oil, and due to COVID as well, the demand for oil has decreased significantly, which means that the income that we were expecting, because Guyana does have a profit sharing agreement, will now also be significantly lower than we expected. But because we have this impasse at the moment, the government response hasn't been as robust as people in the private sector. I'm sure every citizen of Guyana would really have wanted it to be. Because in many countries, we've heard about support packages being offered to businesses to keep their employees on the payroll. We have not had that here. The actions that have been taken are more from a Bank of Guyana, our central bank perspective, where they've instructed our commercial banks to offer deferrals. It is still the responsibility of the business itself to request that deferral. And we will not have any waivers of the interest fees. The interest will be carried forward, and unfortunately, we will now have to pay interest on top of that interest that would have been accumulated as well. So we in Guyana do really need to get to some level of political normalcy so that our political system can kick in. And although we have a fantastic order that was supposed to really reduce the spread, most people in Guyana are still not taking it as serious as they should. And many days when we are on a major road here, when I look out on the road, I see what seems to be very low adherence to staying at home. So I hope that that doesn't affect us even more in the future by increasing the spread. But what has happened is the deferrals of mortgage payments by commercial banks, and the response by our Civil Defense Commission, supported by the private sector. I think we have several millions already being donated in both cash and in products for distribution to those who are severely affected at the moment. So we see a very human effort by our fellow Guyanese in terms of helping each other through this particular period of time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vishnu, for your perspective. It is always great to hear from the panelists about what is happening in their particular region. And we heard some similar but yet different strategies that would have been implemented by the government. The governments, for example, the care package, some are offering to support the wages for some companies who are severely affected by COVID-19. We've heard cases where the government is also providing food stamps and other incentives for their citizens in their countries. Thank you very much for that discussion. We're now going to move into the educational part of our program today, where the coaches will be sharing on a particular business topic, and they will be speaking for about 5 to 10 minutes for their presentations. We will commence this segment, first of all, with Coach Indira, and she will be speaking to us today on employee engagement. So please welcome Coach Indira. The floor is all yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Keon. So yeah, I'm going to try and share my screen. So bear with me on this. and let us see how we're gonna go. And if it's not possible for me to share the screen because I just tested this, but it didn't seem to be that easy. Okay, let's just go for it then. Can you see it? Can you see it? No? Hello?
Not as yet.
Oh, okay. I wonder what's going on here. All right, this is okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So we're just gonna, right. So what I want to do is I want to just talk quickly about what really happened with us in during as soon as the COVID actually happened, and in terms of the sort of accompanying sets of reactions that we had from our businesses. And what really happened is that the first thing that I realized is that people were basically freaking out. And so I had to get, my team, my community, my clients, I had to get everyone really centered around three really important parts, which was first my team, second my clients, and third my community. So the real people part of the business, and not just the business, but our communities, because the people and what COVID has really shown up, I think, for certainly for the world, is really the importance of people and the importance of relationships with people. I'm actually an engage and grow coach, and we actually focus on employee engagement. And one of the things that we find typically when we go into a business and they say to us they want to improve productivity, they want to improve accountability, they want to have, more loyalty or more excellence in the workplace. When we do the diagnostic, we find out that, even though they're saying yes, they think it's the process, it's the system, it's the products, it's the procedures, largely it always comes back to when we ask them, well, what needs to happen for this to improve? It really comes down to the heart and to the people part of the business. And so, sorry, let me just, before I move on from that, so what is important in the hard part of the business is our behaviors, the relationships, our communication, our leadership, and our culture. And so what this whole situation has shown us, basically, this pandemic has shown us how critical the people part of everything that we do and relationships are so important to everything that we do, because 100% of our customers are people, 100% of our teams are people. If you don't understand people, you don't understand relationships, then it's just, you're going to fail, you're not going to succeed. And so one of the things that has shown up even more so with, the lockdowns and this kind of working from home has been really what's happened to employee engagement, because we're actually finding that people having great difficulty feeling connected, they're feeling, even more disconnected. They have situations, as all of us have mentioned, working from home with children being at home, having to do online schooling, having to deal with, everybody in the house, not just, the children alone, but, parents and extended family as well. So it's been very, very difficult for many of my clients. And in fact, in some cases, in some of the essential services businesses, it's actually done better, because some of my clients are in the essential services. And from what we've seen, those companies have really pulled together, and people are really totally engaged around really being the heroes of this pandemic. But for others, we've really struggled with employee engagement. So I just want to share 4 tips that I think are really important and have really presented themselves in a very strong way. So the first one is really to choose the most appropriate communication tool for meetings. Because one of the things, again, that we would have found, not just now, so in the past, yes, we know communication is really important. Now, more so than ever, we have to really increase our level of communication. I don't know if you can hear my voice, it's hoarse. It's because I probably spend most of my day either communicating with my teams, my clients, my community. It's really what I spend most of the time doing. So I'm gonna have to find some voice medication or something to kind of ease my throat and at the end of this. But again, increasing communication and finding the most appropriate communication tools for meetings. So whether it's Zoom, whether it's Microsoft Teams, finding the one that really works and increasing the number of times that we communicate. So typically, if we would communicate once a week, we may have to find that we're doing regular check-ins with our teams, maybe quick check-ins in the morning, which is what I do. Having more sort of weekly meetings, so maybe a beginning of a week and an end of a week, weekly meetings with your teams. They may even be before, like I said, if you may have done it once, you're going to have to do it daily to check-ins, and you may have to just increase the communication as well with your community and with your clients. So really keeping, the connection going on. The second one, another one that's really important in communication, which I think a lot of leaders are missing, is really keeping openness and transparency. So it's really important right now for those of us who are leaders, business owners and leaders, to have sessions when you can say to your teams, hey, ask me anything that you want at all, and I will answer. So really keeping the openness and transparency in the communication. The second one is to continue engagement and collaboration with your teams. So really important, for example, to, when you're doing the getting your teams to connect, getting them to find different ways of leveraging different channels that they can use to help them to feel connected. So whether they want to, without pressure, so they may want to create work from home parents groups, or they want to maybe do some groups where they share pet pictures, or just other things that are not so pressuring and not around work, but continuing the collaboration and engagement with your teams in your organizations. The other one, and this is one that's really, really important, is to spice up your meetings. So I actually have a little document that I'm quite happy to share with you with regards to ways in which you can spice up those meetings. But it could be things like games, so trivia games. I did this one with a client the other day, I guessed the baby game. So everybody sent in baby pictures and we had to guess who was the baby. Recipe books. You can even do things like hackathons. You can create a project and create a hackathon within your community. You can do puzzles. I mean, there's so many things on YouTube, so many things. There are games as well. So you can do like, and again, I have a list of these kinds of things that I can share with you, Keon, for your community, like Zoom games, really cute ones like Pass the Pencil and that kind of thing. And lastly, but by no means least, is to really show empathy and understanding. It's really, really important at this time for us to continue to listen to our community, listen to our teams, know what's really going on, not just physically, socially, in terms of their career, in terms of their financial, also just in terms of their community. So showing empathy and understanding with them in a deeper way, and really trying to understand them in a deeper way. All right.
Sure. Thank you very much, Dr. Indira. Those are definitely 4 encouraging tips. First of all, to make sure they communicate appropriately, make sure they encourage continual engagement, spice up the meetings. Sounds very, very interesting. Show empathy and understanding. So thank you very much, Coach Indira, for your presentation today as regards to employee engagement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So all the persons again who are tuning in on social media platforms, we're starting some comments coming in. Thank you for staying with us. We would like to encourage you to like, love our video, share our content, especially with persons who you believe can use it the most. It is also a good educational platform. The coaches will be sharing more topics with regards to business. What we're going to do next would be a talk on leadership, and we're now going to hear from Coach Marcia Wunchoy from Jamaica as she presents her topic today on leadership. Coach Marcia?
Thank you very much. So in looking at leadership, I'm really looking at this topic of courage. We've been speaking with so many business owners, and what we're finding is that people's courage is actually failing. as a leader during this time. And I want to give the analogy of the Brooklyn Bridge. If you look at the Brooklyn Bridge, you will notice that it's a very big and tall structure, but actually it took about the same amount of block and steel that you see that is visible above the water as to what is below the water. And what that says is that you have to lay a very solid foundation for yourself as a leader to withstand. And so one of the ageless principles in leadership is this: the work done below the waterline. And below the waterline means in your soul as a leader, that determines whether you will stand the test of time and challenge. And folks, right now we are in a test of challenge and time. We don't know when we will come out, but for certain we will come out of this COVID-19 crisis. So what this says is that courage is actually below the waterline and it's within you. And courage, if I'm going to quote now Maya Angelou, and she says, courage is the most important of all the virtues, because without courage, you cannot practice any other virtue consistently. You can practice any virtue erratically, but nothing consistently without courage. Courage is the foundation. We are going to have to make decisions every single day, every single minute, and we are going to have to remain consistent to them as a leader. So my message to you is be courageous. You know, Thomas Edison said, and he delivered this message during the depths of the Great Depression. He said, be courageous. I have lived a long time. I have seen history repeat itself again and again. We are seeing history repeat itself. I have seen many depressions in businesses, but always, he said, America has come out stronger and more prosperous. Be as brave as your fathers before you, have faith and go forward. But that's America. But I'm saying to us in the Caribbean region, be brave and have faith. We will come out of this and keep moving forward, but it is going to take courage, and you're going to have to practice that courage every single day. So I want to say, what are some of the benefits of having courage? This thing that you will need to draw on. The first one is that courage enables you to maximize the potential in yourself and in others. Anais Nin says, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. The law of expansion says growth always increases your capacity. I'm a John Maxwell coach, a leadership coach, as well as an action coach. And so one of the things we're always saying is, as coaches, is that we're helping you to grow. So growth is what will increase your capacity. You cannot, as Brad Chickers also said, you cannot grow a business that is bigger than your thinking. And so we have to keep growing to increase our capacity as leaders to lead our people and our businesses out of this crisis. Additionally, I want to say as well that courage allows you to climb as you step up the ladder of life. You know, courage is like a muscle. It's something that it's strengthened by use. That's why I say you have to keep using it every single day. Jeff Olson, the author of the book, The Slight Edge, says, sometimes getting on the path to success and staying on it requires faith in the process, especially at the start. Many of us right now are going, my business is failing. I'm not sure I'm going to make it. Am I going to be able to achieve the vision I wanted to? But it's that thing which says, I'm going to stay on that path that makes you a pioneer. That's what makes you a pioneer. When you say, I see the vision and I'm going to stick to it. Pioneers don't know what's out there, but out there they go anyway, into the challenge, into the uncertainty, which is where we are right now. And that's why being a pioneer takes such courage. Courage means to have a purpose and to have a heart. Right now, as a leader, I said, you know, where's courage below the waterline? It's the soul of a leader. And we have to say, do I still believe in my purpose and in my passion? And do I have a heart for it? The other one is that courage encourages you during difficult and uncertain times. We are definitely in uncertain times. And I want to say to you that courage is not always a roar. Sometimes it is just the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. Whatever you do, you need courage. Whatever course you decide upon, there's always someone to tell you you're wrong. There are always difficulties arising which tempt you to believe that your critics are right. But to map out a course of action and to follow it to an end requires some of the same courage which a soldier needs. Peace has its victories, but it takes brave men to win them. Emerson said this. And the Special Olympic prayer says, let me win. But if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. That's what we as coaches help you to do, to step out in courage, to believe in your purpose, especially during this time of uncertainty, and to keep going, practicing that muscle. The other one is courage propels you to reinvent yourself as often as needed. We heard so many people saying that right now we're pivoting. We're doing things that we never did before. We're having to step up to the plate. We're having to, as courage says, the power to leave the familiar, to change. Courage also sustains you to hold on long enough to win. Courage is holding on just a minute longer. It may seem, I've spoken to so many people, their doors are shut. They're not sure if they're going to make it through next week. But George Patton says courage is holding on a minute longer. And Ann Lander said, if I were asked to give what I consider the single most useful bit of advice for all humanity, it would be this. Expect trouble as an inevitable part of life. And when it comes, hold your head high. Look it squarely in the eye and say, I will be bigger than you. You cannot defeat me. So, folks, I'm going to quote the Bible. The book of Hebrews says, many of us are are afraid. But the most important thing is that courageous acts take place despite fear. In Hebrews, it says, stand firm on your shaky legs. Those who follow will become strong. And the last one is, courage advances your voice. Your voice. What are you saying? People don't follow titles, they follow courage. And respect is earned on difficult ground during these times of challenge. And so, as John F. Kennedy says, the stories of past courage can teach, they can offer hope, they can provide inspiration, but they cannot supply courage itself. For this, each man must look into his own soul. So my parting words are, leaders, be courageous during this time. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Coach Marcia, for your presentation. Really, really insightful. Love when you spoke about leadership, and leaders must have courage. And I love a part of the quote that said, I will be bigger than you in terms when you're facing challenges. Also, love when you said people don't follow title, they follow courage. So, I'd like to
Mhm.
encourage all the persons listening who are leaders in their own rights, whether it is from their organization, even their families or their social institutions, to please have courage. So thank you very much, Coach Marcio, for your presentation.
Thank you. Mhm.
So guys, we've gotten employee engagement, great tips to make sure that the team stays engaged as much as possible. Coach Marcia just took us through a presentation on leadership, bringing out the essence that as leaders we need to have courage, which means just enough to hold on for that much longer. And with that coming together, we're now going to hear from Coach Arthur as he speaks about mindset. So please welcome Coach Arthur as he speaks about mindset.
Thank you, Coach Keon. Marcia alluded to it a little bit before me, and I'm sure some of the other coaches coming after me are also going to talk about it. Mindset. Why is mindset important? As all of us, I believe, have realized the last few weeks or months, and will realize, those who haven't yet will realize so in the coming few months, that we are going to have to do things differently. And some industries, it may be 5 to 10% differently. Others, you completely have to pivot, as Coach Andy said, and do something new. But that means that your mindset also has to change. You can't just learn some new tricks and think you can apply them. You have to change your mindset. What are things that we have to do in order to build a strong mindset? One of them, and I think is very important, is what are your daily rituals? What are the things that you do every day to build upon your mindset? There are easy things of looking at your goals every day. One of the things I remember Brad Sugar said, I believe in the morning he looks at his short-term goals, and in the evenings he looks at his long-term goals. But he looks at them every day. Other people do once or twice a day, they do their I am statements. I am becoming a great business leader to my community. I am becoming a great husband, wife, parent, you name it. What are the things that we do daily that are part of a ritual that help us build a strong mindset? Another very important part of building a strong mindset is learning and growing. I am glad to see some people who shared online that during the time that they were in lockdown, they have been able to got an additional certification in, perhaps the technical part of their profession. They didn't sit still. They didn't treat this as a imposed upon vacation. No, what did they do? They grabbed this time to develop themselves further. And it could be on things that are, as I said, a technical part of your job. It could be on leadership skills, but we have to continue learning and growing. And as Marcia just said, your business can only grow as big as you are. If you stop growing, your business stops growing. So, as I said, once again, we have to continue learning and growing. Look at this as an opportunity, not a crisis. I know it's easier said than done, especially for business owners who, as I mentioned earlier in Curacao, we have been on pretty much full lockdown. Based on your on the license plate, you can go out twice a week to buy groceries and medicine, but other than that, all businesses were closed, and a lot of people, basically lost faith that things are going to go better. I mean, nobody planned for this. There are no things that you can just pull out of the cupboard and make sure you have a plan. But this is an opportunity for me as a business coach in Curacao. One of the things I've realized, hey, listen, my business was about 50% online, and now it's more than likely going 100% online. I've seen high-end restaurants, doing delivery and pickup, something that maybe 3 months down the road, they would have never considered it. Now they've had to. And some, I realize, may go back to the way things were before. But I believe many other businesses and industries are going to go ahead and make a permanent change into the way they've been doing business. So this is an opportunity. How can I reach? How can I go more international? How can I reach customers who weren't, who normally wouldn't visit my store because I'm far? Do I have a web shop? Can they order online so that they can come and deliver? This is an opportunity to change our business for the better. One of the things, this is about the positive attitude, and I know, and I've encountered it many times, it has been very challenging. Most of the time I am on a positive mindset, but when things are happening every day, at times you're thinking, when does it end? Well, it will end one day, and I have decided that I am going to be one of the ones that are going to be standing when this is all is over. So find, whether it's little wins. One of the things I do with my mentor clients is, what was your number one success this past week? Force people to think, to take something positive and build upon it, because it'll help you get through the tough times. And last but not least, sometimes no news is good news. In the beginning, I was also following all the daily press conferences from our government, and sometimes from Aruba and the United States as well. I've seen many discussions online with people saying, yes, why don't we do what they are doing in Norway or in Sweden or in... Second, Mike.
Hi, I think we're... Coach Arthur, are you still there? All right, so we seem to be experiencing some technical difficulties with Coach Arthur. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna move to our next presentation. Just before we do that, I would like to thank Coach Arthur. We'll get him when he's back to wrap up. But he was speaking about make sure we have our daily rituals. What are we saying to ourselves? Use the time where you can learn and continue to grow. See this as an opportunity and not as a crisis to do the things you may not have had the chance to do prior. And find small wins. And as he indicated, sometimes no news is good news. So pay attention to what you need to follow, but don't allow it to always consume you. So we're now going to be hearing from Coach Dave as he speaks to us on businesses, adapting your business to the new normal. So please welcome Coach Dave.
Thank you, Coach Kian. I believe that all the coaches before me, of course, brought forward pretty important points, especially in the area of leadership and management, and the mindsets that we need to adapt to. And I want to talk a little bit that the basis for everything that we're doing right now, if we don't have that mindset, that to give our focus, just as Marsha mentioned, Arthur mentioned also, is that it's very important that we have that attitude towards whatever is coming forward towards the future. In order to complement that, it's very important also that we have to deal with the new, what we call the logical part of the business also, which is our new reality moving forward. And one of the things that definitely we have to look at is how do we deal with our business processes moving forward, and things that we have to take into consideration. Especially now, you see that businesses have been the government have been relaxing all the measures that they have implemented in order to with the stay away. So now people can go back outside and engage. So people are starting to go back to work. And so what can the team, for example, be expecting? how are we going to manage this business moving into the new future? So this is something very important, so we can stand still and see. One of the main things is to let's get everybody aligned. Let's make sure that everybody is aligned towards where we are moving to, so people can understand, okay, so now that we are starting back, what are the new priorities for us? What are the new things that we have to be looking for? What are the things that now has to be done, now that we are opening? For example, I'm taking this as an example. I seeing, for example, in different companies I work with, the first thing that's coming out part of the alignment is, oh, let's make sure that everybody is safe. Let's everybody we have to social distancing. Let's put all the measures in place, but how are we going to approach our clients? How we're going to receive our clients? So everybody needs to be aligned on are the priorities, so we don't miss any of the gaps that we have in this process. The second thing, of course, is focus. What are we going to be focused in right now? I know that in different companies, for example, the main focus has been, for example, to on just the operations, let's say delivering or producing, or organizing part of the processes. But we have to define now what will be the new focus. And in some companies, for example, the new focus will be the marketing. And in some companies now they have to reinforce even that department on marketing. Um, so one of the things that also that needs to be focused on is, for example, how are we going to deal with our customer relation? Now is a moment that maybe the customer relation, customer service move up even a notch higher. So we need to know how to focus, what needs to be done. Every individual needs to participate, how they're going to participate in this process. Another point, of course, is very important is the commitment, is the follow through that we have to focus on in these times. For example, and I know Indira, for example, Coach Indira talk about this. Is about the engagement. How is our team? How will the team? Will have to manage with our team. Everybody needs to be on board. So we need to follow through with how we organize our organization at this moment. So we make sure that we have practical, good management, and even in order to get results, because I've seen this in many companies, for example, that in certain areas, let's call it micromanagement, we have to go in and micromanage just to make sure that we are getting these results out of the be based on the priorities that we have now. So that's something that's very, very, very important. Our organizational discipline that we are setting up right now. So how are the proceedings, how our meetings is going to be set up? For example, still people there are, you still have people working from home. What are the new rules that needs to be put in place? Yeah, so what are for example, the new rules that we have to set in place based on social distancing and still comply with the business area of the company, but on the other hand, the safety area. So the whole organizational discipline, how we gonna, what are the priorities, is gonna be very important at this moment. Part of this is also, for example, the organizational development on itself. So how are we going to organize our business? So here is where we will have to map all the processes that are in the business. This is something that should have been done prior, but now it's more important than ever that you make sure that you can map out how all the processes are working within that business. So that will give people a little bit more of confidence on what to expect, the communication towards your customers and your prospects, can be much clearer when everybody knows what to do. And maybe this is also a moment to create what we call an how-to manual. So how to organize a meeting, how to do a virtual education for my customers and my prospects. So all these areas which we have to manage within our business. So to finalize, I think it's important not only I mean to complement. It's the part of the leadership, this the way we have that courage to take new steps to adapt to the new normal. Make sure that everybody has that focused mindset in order to everybody and can be engaged. And one of the things that maybe we should be thinking as part of the process is how are we going to organize actually that mental area, those mental programs as a part of our process in order to help our employees, our staff, our customers, how to help them deal with this process. So all of this should be something that to be part of our strategic agenda within the company. So and this is something that I guess is the new normal. So hopefully this can be a contributing part towards to complement the coaches that also came before me. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you very much, Coach Dave, for your perspective on this topic with regards to businesses getting in touch with what is going to be the new normal, adopting the businesses. And one of the things that you mentioned, well, I'm going to summarize in terms of what do you need to focus on, which is going to be very, very important. I like the point where you spoke about having practical good management. So we need to relook at our management approaches, organizational disciplines, which means what are the new rules that we're going to need to implement to make sure that our company continues to move forward. You also spoke about the organizational development with regards to mapping the processes, developing what we call the how-to manuals. And some of those procedures will probably have to change if they would have had
Yes.
if they would have had them prior. And finally, the one that I thought was really, really the icing on the cake would have been encouraging companies to have a mental program in place to deal with the team members, because we tend to sometimes not focus on the social impact of this lockdown, right? So very, very interesting. Thank you very much, Coach Dave.
Thank you, Guillaume.
All right. So, guys, you had just heard from Coach Dave when he spoke about adopting your business to the new normal. And we're now going to be hearing from Dr. Vishnu as he speak to us about what is currently happening and how we can be working remotely. So he's going to be sharing some tips with us when it comes to remote working. Dr. Vishnu, take it away.
Thank you very much, Keon. And yeah, very fantastic information from my fellow Caribbean coaches. I know that the coaches who spoke before me focused heavily on the mindset, and it is always important that you get your mindset right first, because then you know the why of doing what needs to be done. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the how, because when you've heard such fantastic information from our coaches, you know that you can't be sitting on your hands and waiting for things to get back to normal, because as Coach Dave mentioned, there is no going back to normal. We will have to evolve and really address what's going to be coming up next. Now, in February, when all of us were together at BizX, which is the large awards for the Americas, one of our clients, Joshua Kisun, actually won the best IT company and best business software as well. And I thought it was uh, very timely and very interesting, because many of our companies have now had to move towards technology, when before attending a Zoom meeting was a difficulty because they could have sat in the office. Now it has become the norm. And we all need to start looking at how technology is really going to be affecting our lives, because the key thing that you want to think about is And thanks, Kian, for the intro. But I'm going to take it from an engineering perspective today. How did we get here? Why are we now so interested in utilizing technology? Viruses have been around for a long time, but for about 100 years, we have not experienced something like the coronavirus, where it spreads so rapidly and the cost could be very high, which means that for a lot of people, their traditional jobs are no longer where they used to be. So if you're in a type of company where you can't have even access to the building, you may not be able to perform from where you were. So it means that we do need to find different ways, more effective ways of getting the work done. Some countries are already moving to the stage where you need a temperature scan before you can enter the building. Very soon we might end up in a space where we need a pass to show that we might have already had COVID, we've recovered from it, and we're now not able to infect other people or get infected ourselves. All of these things are on the horizon, but they will become somewhat of the new normal. So what are your options? And that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit today. And this presentation is usually an hour, but what I've done, I've picked up the key tips that can allow you to go implement them immediately, because the coaches before me have outlined to you why this is important. I really want to help you with some level of how. So when you are having communication, and this is really for remote work, if you're either working from home or if you have a home office, we really need to take a look at how do you get the maximum effect. So stay away from the noise. If you are in a home that you're normally in the front of the house where you have a lot of traffic passing, I would strongly recommend that you move towards the back of your home, find a quieter area, maybe find the air-conditioned area that dampens the outside noise. If you are using a laptop or another device, stay relatively close to the router if you're using Wi-Fi, because being too far off and having other devices around your device can really drop out the signal that you need to have a very smooth connection. If possible, have a direct cable connection from your router to your device. I always recommend that because that is the most stable connection that you can have. A lot of us are having these meetings, and yes, we might schedule them on our calendar, but if you already have the Zoom link or the webinar or the GoToWebinar link, whatever link, I would strongly encourage you, copy that and put it into the calendar invite so that on the day when you have to have the meeting, you're not running around looking for the link to attend that specific meeting. We also use our mobile devices a lot, and we actually put it towards our face, and the camera is usually right where your ear is located. So if you really want to have as clean an image as possible, make sure that you wipe your phone, especially where the camera area is, and avoid blocking your microphone as well. Most of our microphones are towards the bottom of the device, and we sometimes have a tendency of holding it like this or holding it like this, and we're actually blocking the microphone. And people on the other end are not able to hear us clearly. Even on your device, pay attention to where your mic is located on your laptop, because sometimes we have a piece of paper or a book and we're resting it on the laptop, actually blocking the microphone whilst we're speaking. Always mute yourself when you are not talking, because someone might enter the room, enter the space where you're at. You might spill some tea on yourself, and you might use some words that are not ready to be broadcast. So when you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. Whenever possible, get a phone stand or a laptop stand. I'm going to show you some examples of what you can use to really have yourself be as productive as possible. Dress for work, at least from the waist up. And if you are dressed from just the waist up, please don't stand up on camera. I've seen, we've seen the memes, we've seen the videos on social media, but I can tell you, we run a lot of our meetings, we run a lot of training, and I've seen too many oops types of moments to think that it doesn't happen to us. So please make sure, and I would strongly encourage you, dress as if you're going to work, walk around the house, walk around outside the gate and coming back, just to make sure that you are in that mindset. Always recommend using your phone in the landscape position, not in the portrait position, because you're able to then, if you look at these screens, they're all set up to be used in the landscape position. So you're actually being able to use more of more of the screen. Put your phones on silent, because when you are on a call and somebody's calling you, people can actually hear that buzzing sound, and in some cases, depending on your settings, they can even hear the ringing going on. So it can interfere with your session. And if you're doing something very important, like sessions like these, for example, I would strongly recommend that you put your phone, if you're doing it from your phone, in airplane mode, and then activate the Wi-Fi, because that stops the mobile network from contacting your phone. Always check the lighting. So make sure that there's no light source behind you, because when there's a light source behind you, it makes you look very dark. So always make sure that the light source is from in front of you. So it's better to face a window than to back a window. Get a really good headset. Some devices capture the feedback. So if someone else is talking, it comes through your speakers and it actually enters back your mic, and that creates a whole feedback loop. So if your device isn't one that cancels out noise really well, get the headset in order not to affect the meeting negatively. If you can, upgrade your computer. Sometimes I don't think it's a Caribbean thing, across the world. Sometimes people look for the cheapest possible devices. And they are the cheapest possible devices, because not only the components, the software also, you might not be able to get the very best. But if this is the new normal, take, for example, the money you're saving on transportation, add it up for a month. It might be 100 US, it might be 200 US if you're far from work. And I would strongly encourage you, save that up for a month, 2 months, add it to your budget that you had for a device, and buy a device that is much better, so that you don't end up freezing in mid-presentation, or the battery doesn't last too long. So really make sure that you have really good device. Have at least a 5 MB internet connection. When I was testing this earlier, I could actually see that when everybody's on at the same time and we're presenting, it goes up to about 5-6 MB. So if you're at, I would strongly recommend a 10 or 20. And if you're lucky, 50 or 100 works really well. If the internet provider that you have goes down, so the wired line that comes to your house, don't forget that most of our devices, you could turn your mobile internet into a hotspot that allows you to have access to the internet from the phone to your device. Make sure that you get exercise at least 30 minutes per day, because now we're not walking to work and walking back. So all of that is usually at least 30 minutes. So make sure that you give it to yourself. Snack healthy. Make sure if you have kids around, you might be tempted to use the snacks that your kids have. So if you have to have snacks, make sure it's fruits or something very healthy. Train family members to help. If family members usually come and distract you and disturb you, I found that a very easy way to have them stop distracting you is train them to help you, and you see how fast they either help you or they stay away from wherever you're working. Kian, I'm going to get wrapped up very shortly. Report twice per day to your supervisor if you have one, because it really allows you to get that feedback loop that is needed. Scheduled in the needed learning. This is a fantastic time for you to upgrade yourself. I think both Coach Arthur and Dave also mentioned to that. If you're using a laptop, if you're using something, and in Guyana we have a lot of power outages, so a laptop usually gives you about 4 hours of battery power, but also make sure that you have a UPS for your router, because you don't want to have a power outage and then the Wi-Fi also goes off. Get some sunlight, walk around a little bit outside, get some sunlight, keep your immune level at a very high level, so use a multivitamin daily. I mentioned meeting with your team. You can always have a branded background, so you either have a green screen, which I think is my next one. So a green screen allows you to have a very clean virtual background. We prefer to use banners. We have banners with different messages. I actually really like, that this one, the biggest risk you can take is to do nothing. So even as I'm talking to people, even if I'm not speaking, this here is sending a message to the people who are looking on the other end. And of course, I love Guyana. Use a second screen. I'll show you a layout of that just now. If you really want to be focused on the meeting, keep your camera on, right? Having your camera on allows you to be focused on what's going on in that meeting. If you turn off your camera, you might be tempted to go check email, check WhatsApp. I'm going to show you an example just now of how you can stand up. And you can also just get up from your chair and do some squats. Get really good lighting, usually on camera. You might need to have some excess lighting to really get it better. If you get a mouse, a wireless mouse, I would really recommend that you go with a wireless mouse instead of a Bluetooth mouse. These react immediately instead of the Bluetooth that you actually have to click on. And always keep some writing material handy, because the ideas that flash in your mind, you want to capture them really quickly. This is an example of what the second screen looks like. So you just plug in, and it's always good to get a computer monitor instead of a TV. The pressure that the TV screen puts on your eyes from such a close distance can affect you. So actually get a really good quality monitor. And what it does, it just extends your screen. Get a really comfortable place to sit. This particular one, if you really didn't want to go home or go to your room, you could actually extend it and just take a 5 minutes off. And the stand that you're seeing up there, you can actually put your laptop or your screen on that stand and stand up and work. It really gives you a level of exercise that is really important for you to have at this particular point in time. Keon, you're back on. So thank you very much. Anybody who needs to go in depth, Keon is going to share some info on how you can get on to ourselves and to the rest of the coaches as well.
Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu. Just to the points that I wanted to summarize for those persons who might have just tuned in and those who couldn't take fast enough notes. You can go and relook at the video, but I just like to give my summary. Very importantly, to make sure that you are close to the router so that you can maximize your connectivity for your internet. Dress appropriately, properly, especially if you're sitting, so from the waist up, but make sure that you don't get up. Exercising is very important. So a lot of us are working remotely, but sometimes we fail to get up and move around. Upgrade your devices. I think that's definitely a key pointer, especially with the new normal that we're getting into. Instead of having technical difficulties, we want to make sure that we have a backup UPS, because some of our electricity providers are not as reliable as others. So we want to make sure that we have that. Have a branded background, so you want to keep your message out there. And finally, make sure that you keep your cameras on so that you can remain focused as the presentations are going through. Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu, for your presentation. We are going into our final presentation for today. We've heard from all of our speakers, employee engagement, Coach Indira. We've heard about leadership from Coach Marcia, mindset from Coach Arthur, adopting your business to the normal, Coach Dave, and remote working tips from Coach Vishnu. So let's welcome Coach Rose as she tells us about pivoting your business. Coach Rose, take it away.
Thank you, Keon. Thank you. What I want to share with you today is some experiences on how we work together with our clients to help them pivot their strategy, pivot their business toward a new future. And we do that because of the vulnerabilities that became obvious through this crisis. Crisis is a difficult time, and every crisis always does one thing: it exposes the vulnerabilities of a business. So you can operate a business in good times with a lot of vulnerabilities, and they are not obvious because you are riding the wave of a good economy. But when times get bad, vulnerabilities get exposed. So now, and with working with different businesses from different sectors, I was privileged to see several sorts of vulnerabilities actually come floating up while working with my businesses during this crisis. And so you might ask yourself, how do I know I need to pivot? Because if you have a vulnerability, you have to ask yourself, what do I need to do to heal the patch, to do something about it? Do I have to pivot to another strategy and another product. What do I do? Well, first of all, you have to identify if you have a serious vulnerability. And how do you do that is by looking at these three factors. One is cash, the other is agility, and the third one is relevancy. Now, what I mean by these three is I'll explain a little bit, and then after that, I will go into some pivot strategies I've been working on with my clients. So cash, obviously, it doesn't need much explanation, but cash is the question you ask yourself: Does my business uh, is my business capable of providing enough revenue or cash flow in difficult times? Well, depending on which industry you're in, how mature your business is, and a lot of factors, you will see immediately where you're lacking. And sometimes it may not be something of the business. For example, I have a client who is in the tourist industry, but ticketing. And from one day to another, they had no revenue. That's nothing concerning the business. It's concerning the industry. But nevertheless, you will see immediately if your business is able to provide a sustainable level of income to keep the business afloat, even if it's just on break-even basis or what, in a difficult time. The second one is agility. Sometimes you look at a business and it's a very good working business, but when something comes up, they have great difficulty to adapt because their working structures are very rigid. And if you have a rigid structure, working structure in your business, it will be difficult to adapt to a new strategy or new things to do, because maybe there's so many levels of stuff you need to adjust before you can implement something. Another factor that can affect agility if it's only you as the business owner who takes all the responsibility, and you do not have a proper structure of communicating, having the information going from up, down, to all the corners of the organization coming back up. So it's very difficult if you don't have that to move the organization like one organism in a difficult time. So that's the part of agility. When look at your business and ask yourself, okay, where are we able to adapt and make changes fast and quickly to this new situation nobody prepared for? And if not, what are the causes? Because the causes can be many. So agility is an important factor, because being able to respond quickly can be a matter of life and death for your business. And then the third one is relevancy. And a lot of businesses got their relevancy exposed due to this crisis. We live in small economies which are a little bit laid back, like Suriname, Guyana, and so on. So it's okay for us to, not be on top of all new technologies, of all new developments. But suddenly, when a crisis comes crushing down, you see that some parts of all of your business are not that relevant anymore. For example, if you have a business and you have no online selling capacity, and you are not able to move quickly in that business mode, you have a serious problem. So so your business might become irrelevant because of you are not able to make that kind of adjustment. So these are the three criteria you have to apply to see if you have a problem somewhere in your business for you to quickly realize, well, I need a pivot strategy. Now then, next, if you want to, what we've been working through with our clients are 3 types of pivot strategy. And may I have the next slides, please? And I want to share with you so you can take a look at your business and see which one may apply to your business. The first one is sandbox. And I like to start with that one because we in the Caribbean are historically we have small marketplaces. Sandbox is what is your marketplace? Where do you what is your playing field? And what we found in Suriname is that a lot of businesses are solely focused on making money in Suriname. Well, Suriname, like most other countries in the Caribbean, is a very small market. We have only 500,000 inhabitants. And on top of that, we are not that stable. So a lot of things happen economically or politically, or things happen, and it affects us greatly. So, but it's not only the country, it's also who are you serving within the country that might affect you being more vulnerable than others. If you're serving certain target markets who are much prone to not being able to buy from you in times of crisis, it might be something to look at. So sandbox, can you do something to decrease your vulnerability, not be dependent on one type of market, so that if something happens to one market, you still have another stream of income coming towards you. So that is what we're working towards with our businesses, with my clients. If they have the possibility, either with technology or other means, to look outside the country and work more internationally, or focus on target markets that are less vulnerable to crises. For example, business travelers will be a lot less vulnerable to crisis than, for example, people who are going on holiday and that kind of stuff. The next pivot strategy we work on is the product or service. And that can be a lot of things, like how is your product really, is it relevant, and how is it packaged? Because you can have a very good product, but if it's not packaged well, and with package, I do not mean the literal package, is how you bring the product to your customer, or you can say package distribution model is also another way of saying that. So if you do you have an online shop? Is it do the customer have to come to you to get the product? What do you sell through other stores, or is it you alone? Do you have the total production line in control or not? Those are the difficult questions you need to ask yourself when looking at how vulnerable is our business. And you might want to look at maybe doing something at your product to make it more accessible to more people, or make it more attractive to a smaller target market, but that target market is less prone to the ups and downs of a crisis. So that is the next thing you might look at, like, can I obtain or develop my products and service so that I have a more stable portfolio of products, so that if something happens, for example, you're only selling tickets. If something happens with the airlines, you don't have any other products you can benefit from. So that is another way we work with our clients to see, okay, what are the different things you can do in order to to make yourself less vulnerable. And the last one I want to close off with is your business model. A lot of vulnerability comes from the business model. And we have very stringent, for example, labor laws in Suriname. And that it makes it very difficult for businesses to be agile and make difficult decisions. So what we are working towards other business models that give them a little more leniency, a little more room in sharing profit with other people. But if something happens, then that doesn't mean that all the risks comes on the business. So looking at your business model is also a very important thing. And what we've also find is that, for example, businesses with subscriptions and monthly income are a lot less vulnerable in these times of crisis than businesses who will have to every month or every day have to make a sale to get their income. So there are several ways to look at pivot strategies. To close out, first you have to look at, do I have vulnerabilities? If yes, where do they come from? And if I find vulnerabilities, let's look at the pivoting strategies we can adapt for the future to bridge the gap in order to be better prepared for a next crisis, or quickly adapt to this crisis. And that was it. What we are doing with our clients, and I hope this will give you some insights how you can benefit from a pivoting business strategy as well.
Thank you very much, Coach Rose. That was a very insightful presentation as you took us through how businesses can pivot, what strategies they can use in terms of dealing with this crisis. So I just want to touch on the final three that you spoke about: sandbox. Make sure that you look at other marketplaces, look at your products and services, look at its relevance, and also how do you package, which means how do you offer it to your customers in this current situation. And of course, reviewing your business model, looking at how can you have more income coming in versus depending on daily income. So thank you very much. That was really insightful. So guys, at this time, we're going to be having our
I saw that Keon just went off, so I think he should be back soon. Yes, Keon.
thank you. We're going to have our panelists come back on screen. There's always Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong, but not today. We are action coaches, and we always make sure that we look for that 1,001 solution to any issue. So thank you very much to all of our coaches. Coach Vishnu is in the background, so he's hearing, for sharing your thoughts and your topics with us today. Now we're getting into our question and answer segment. And what I will do, I will pose the question. The first question that I'm seeing comes from to the bottom. Is it Austin? I trust that I got that name correct. And the question is, what about some engineering works that has to do with site visit? How do we do that remotely? So engineering work that has to do with site visits, how do we do that remotely? And I'm gonna ask our panelists, starting with Arthur, to just give a quick feedback on that, just within 30 seconds to a minute.
Okay, I guess it has to do with how can we inspect a site remotely. The way I'm thinking of is that there is someone there with a camera that walks where you would have had to be in person, walks with the camera to make sure that all the proper areas are covered, and that they can transmit that either directly back to the main office where a group is sitting, or take the video from that recording to the main office to brainstorm afterwards.
Thank you very much, Arthur. And I'm seeing Coach Indira has her hands up. Go ahead, Coach Indira.
Yeah, just to add to that as well, I think it's also an opportunity for the person who has that business to look at ways in which they could systemize the business in the future and probably have a better check-in system. So, for example, now that this has happened, they would have realized that there were certain sort of workflow processes or various aspects of engineering. Well, they are engineers after all, so they'd love to do that. To create systems around it so that if something like this should happen again, there could be some kind of check-in system from the system if there was, some issue that came up, for example. So that's just to add as an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Coach Indira. Coach Rose, go ahead. Coach Rose, you're muted.
Yeah. Just quickly adding to Indy, you can also use technology, but you have to install it. Like everything, technology you can. And I don't know if the technology is available or not in the country from which the question came. I happen to have a client in the security business who just installed a new product, and that is remote camera viewing, and then you can just install the cameras and nobody needs to be on the premises, and you can make a round every hour, every whatever you can install. But depending on what type of inspection it is, you can use that, because for some inspections that won't do. So it depends. So that's another option depending on what type of inspection you need, and the technology has to be available in your country, of course.
Thank you. Coach Dave or Coach Marcy, like to weigh in here?
I just want to say that just to add also, one of the things that I see a lot of companies, engineering companies doing nowadays also is using drones. Again, it's depending what kind of inspection has to be done, but drones now is getting more and more in place, where even scanning within properties, outside properties, depending again what kind of inspection it is, but drones has become very popular right now into inspections.
Thank you very much. Coach Marcio? Okay, so can Dr. Coach Vishnu weighing as an engineer?
Yeah, thanks, Kian. And as I would have mentioned as well, that if you look at places like China, where they have been dealing with such viruses for an extended time, many industrial complexes have put up decontamination chambers that people have to go through before they enter the facility. They have screening for fevers and asking for certificates of people already having either had the virus and have recovered. And then depending on the complexity of the task, having the right personal protective equipment that would allow them to carry out an inspection either directly, safely, or if not, if it is being done remotely, then what Arthur mentioned is exactly what's needed. There are services like that. We've used a service where we wanted some items out of China and from the factory, and we pay someone to go there and actually walk, and they take all the instructions from us sitting here in Guyana. So it is already available. So I would really encourage that persons look for the opportunities that exist. And again, I would always recommend the coaches who you see on the call here and across the world. Our role is to keep getting better at what we do. This is our, every single day, that's our job. And it is very important for people to tap into this resource so that you don't have to take days, weeks, months, years to learn these things. You can learn them in 1 hour, whatever you need to learn. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu. And a final question that I'm seeing here, this is a very a loaded question, and I will read the question, then indicate the order in which the persons will respond so I can have the coaches all on the panel. I will remove myself from the screen so that you guys can have the full view. The question is, which country in the Caribbean has the best ease of doing business, especially for foreign business people, with regards to registration of business, permits, etc.? So just read that back very quickly. Which country in the Caribbean has the best ease of doing business, especially for foreign business people, with regards to registration of the business, permits, etc.? So we will take the responses in the order you can give, probably from your country's perspective. We'll go start with Coach Indira, followed by Coach Dave, followed by Coach Marcia, Arthur, Rose, and finally Coach Vishnu to give their feedback. So I'm going to allow Coach Vishnu to come on screen, and I'm going to step back. So we're going to go in that order again. Coach Indira, Dave, Marcia, Arthur, Rose, and end with Coach Vishnu. So, in Coach Indira, take it away.
Well, I'm just going to start with a disclaimer. So I'm not going to. I'm not an expert on all the Caribbean islands, but I can speak to mine. And I, obviously right now, in terms of registrations and permits, I know we have two major agencies. We have the TTIFC and TT Invest, which really takes care of any kind of foreign interest that's interested in coming into Trinidad and Tobago to invest. So I would recommend that if you're interested, to take a look at either of those websites. It's InvestTT, and there's Trinidad and Tobago IFC, which is specifically around finance. So anything to do with, for example, BPOs that are finance related, or any types of businesses around fintech or finance. So that would be my contribution, simply because I'm not familiar with all the other Caribbean nations and ease of doing business there. So.
Thank you very much. Who goes next?
Yes, from our perspective, I can say that we work, for example, in terms of investment, we work with the association called ARENA, Aruba Investment Agency, which has been processing the development of different projects and companies here on the island. But I have to say that we work a lot with the Chamber of Commerce. Actually, the Chamber of Commerce is what has been facilitating and actually encouraging, and they have been very, very active in promoting, so people can be more flexible on the permits for foreign companies to do business. So I can say for Aruba, let's say that it's very highly regarded. So, and people are our Chamber of Commerce is very flexible and in promoting these foreign businesses to participate in our economy. So that's what I can say for our country.
Thank you very much. Marcia or Rose, would you like to add to that? Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm actually going to quote the World Bank report, because the World Bank does a report every year of ease of doing business, and Jamaica is ranked #1 in the Caribbean. I see Arthur laughing. So we have, in terms of doing business, sustaining the pace of reforms, etc., Jamaica is at 71 out of 190 economies globally. And for the Caribbean, we are #1. And I would say St. Lucia is 93. For us on the call, Trinidad and Tobago is 105. Guyana, 134.
We will not do so well, I'm afraid, in Suriname.
Right, I'm not. Suriname is 162. So there actually is a report every year that looks at it, which is something which forces or causes each country to be looking at their ease of business, especially with bringing in foreign direct investment. And so we're always trying to move up the ranking here within the Caribbean, because we do want to have foreign direct investment in our countries.
And so, Marcia, I've just also pulled up a selection of our countries. The Dutch Caribbean, unfortunately, didn't pop up in the Caribbean. I don't know why we didn't want to capture them in, but they do need to be in. And the website is doingbusiness.org. So I believe it was Austin who would have asked that question. It's an ideal place for us to get more information. And in Guyana, we have a lot of difficulties when it comes to accessing credit, for example, and getting permits. Uh, this particular report does cover 10 areas. So anybody who wants to invest, I would strongly encourage you to take a look at this particular report. Indy?
I just want to make a plug for the Caribbean because given what has happened with this pandemic, I think there's a huge opportunity for everybody to move all their business to the Western Hemisphere, to the Caribbean. We have the fantastic time zone. We speak English, we speak Dutch, we speak every language you can think of. We have the best weather. We're a perfect solution for risk mitigation for any business looking for an opportunity to mitigate their risk in business if they had thought about some going elsewhere. So we're very open for manufacturing, business opportunity, fintech. We're highly educated. The whole of this area, extremely educated and very friendly and welcoming. So what more do you need?
Well,
Indy,
thank you,
Indy, I
Andy,
think
for
you
that,
should work. Coach Indy, I
nice
think you should.
elevator speech.
I think you should represent us on the Caribbean Tourism Board.
I think so. I can't see how nobody else is seeing this huge opportunity. It's so
Awesome. Thank you.
obvious, right?
Well done, Andy.
Thank you. You name it, we have it. Collectively, we have it.
Arthur and Dave, I know that I wasn't able to pull up the Dutch Caribbean, but what are the prospects in the Dutch Caribbean?
From on the Curacao side, we have an investment government agency, CNEX. It's an investment and export development agency, which who coordinates a lot with foreign investors, and also with my other hat as a board member of the Curacao Chamber of Commerce. That is the #1 place to come and get information for both local businesses and foreigners wanting to do business in Curacao.
Dave, anything to add for Aruba?
Yes, just as I mentioned before, we have also investment bank where we work with, and just I mentioned that Aruba is very flexible, and they really promote it a lot to bring in foreign businesses towards the island. Definitely.
Right. For anybody from the Guyana perspective, I think Guyana for 2020 is probably the only country in the Caribbean that's expected to experience growth at 50% GDP growth. So I just sent a link to the Who's Who in Guyana business. So it would be good if anybody wants to learn more about Guyana to do that. I know that Trinidad has their version, Jamaica has a version as well. So also good sources to get. I think Marcia's question also sparked this question here: what would life be if you have no courage to try anything? The question is, what motivates you, what inspires you to really do what you do, especially at this particular point in time? And maybe let's start with Marcia. What inspires you and what motivates you to do what you do?
Well, one of the things is that I believe that you should always be doing something that aligns with your values and your purpose. So when I joined and found the Action Coach franchise, it was all about globally our vision is world abundance through business re-education. At the time when I found Action Coach, I had left Citibank as a vice president, and my purpose at that time was I wanted to make a difference. And I tried politics, that didn't work. I didn't think that was the right place, but I still continued to look for a way in which I could make a difference in people's lives and in my country. So transforming people's lives and their businesses was something I made my purpose and my passion. So when we spoke about courage, for you to remain consistent with that, and where I spoke about the fact that courage depends on what's below that water, below the water line, what's in a leader's soul. That's what you have to determine. What is it that I believe in so much and I'm so passionate about that I'm willing to get up every single day, and despite all the things that are happening, make one step forward and keep going consistently. You find the courage based on what you believe in, what your values are, and what's important to you.
Thank you very much. Let's say Coach Indy, followed by Coach Rose. What inspires, what motivates you to do what you do?
So, like Marcia, I see myself as a transformational leader, and I see myself as a catalyst for change. And what really inspires me is being able to work with individuals to help them to be more and to do more and to have more. So I'm a very transformation. I love, again, working, especially when I have my teams and my clients. We always start with the mindset, and to me that is where the big shift takes place in who they need to become. And because a lot of us go around doing lots of things, you can do this course, you can do this MBA, but does it really lead to huge change and huge transformation? So to the point of courage, it really requires a lot of reflection, like what could be some of the things that are holding you back? Because a lot of us as leaders, we kind of have to get out of our own way. So we may have fears and all sorts of kind of head trash that's holding us back. So we as business coaches, we work with our leaders to kind of help them to unlock those things and really stand in front of the fear and really get in front of it. So I think that's really a large part of what we do. And I really am very grateful to be part of the Action Coach community, because had I not been a part of this community, I was on a journey from many, many years ago. I started around 1999, reading books and so on, attending conferences, but it's really the Action Coach mindset piece that really impacted me in a significant way. And I've actually seen my own transformation and my huge growth really around getting out of my own way. So it's the Action Coach journey, the mindset, starting with that and who you need to become, that has really led to that for me and for others.
Thank you. Rose, followed by Dave.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu. For me, it was a journey, and I'm a very competitive person, and always wanting to do things the best way they can do and really succeed. But being an action coach, I found out that it's much more fulfilling to help other people be successful and succeed, because that has so much more depth and in it, and it helps you grow as a person. So with being an action coach, it works both ways. You help other people grow, help them be successful, go through all the highs and lows with them. That on itself, it's a journey. But in the process, you find that you yourself keep growing and growing. So you get so much back. So this is really the best job you can have for me.
Thank you very much. And Coach Dave, I know that Coach Indy may have to leave. Indy, thank you very much for your participation today. So if you do have to go, it's really fantastic for you to contribute today. Coach Dave, followed by Arthur.
Yes, for me, one of the most important things for me as being a coach is uh, most of the time, you think about your purpose. Having your purpose clear is something that motivates you every single day. Every morning when you wake up, you know what you have set for yourself, what you have set for your family, what you have set for your community. So this is something that really, by having this established, and revisit it every single day, this is something that motivates me every single day. And in that process, seeing people being transformed, sharing the tears, sharing the laughters, sharing the heart, sharing the minds, this is something that keeps motivating me every single day and makes me, and it has become my purpose to contribute every single day to my business community, but not just the business community, but just to my community. And I feel proud to be a coach. I feel proud to be an action coach, and I hope can keep doing this for forever. That's my regards.
Thank you very much, Dave and Coach Arthur.
Yes, thank you, Coach Vishnu. Yeah, for me, it's been a long journey, but ultimately, I decided what I wanted to do, and that's to inspire people to fulfill their potential. And Action Coach gave me this incredible opportunity to help a lot of people, business owners, their employees, and their families are also affected. So the more people we can help, the more successful we can be ourselves.
Thank you very much. And you know what inspires and motivates me is that I'm a problem solver, and I really feel that I've solved a lot of the problems in my own life, the problems in my family's life, the problems in my organizations. I was able to walk away from that pretty early, and the satisfaction that you actually get as a human being to see how you can contribute to so many other lives, so many other organizations. It's really, sometimes I have to pinch myself to think, I actually get paid for doing this. So, but then it also makes me think, if I was just taking care of my organization, my people, maybe it's 100, maybe 200 people that would be directly impacted. But with what we do, and everyone on the call here and the rest of the coaches in the Caribbean, I know all of you lead coaches as well, coaching teams. It allows us to impact thousands, tens of thousands. I know that our goal is abundance for all our countries, abundance for the world. But that multiplying effect, allowing me to use my skills, really makes me jump out of bed every single morning. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I'll bring on back Coach.
Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to each and every one of our panelists for taking time out of your schedules to be here today to have this discussion with us, to educate the persons who are tuned in to our social media platforms, to your social media platforms. I would like to say a special thank you as well to all the persons who would have been viewing from the time we've started, who would have liked, loved, and shared our video, and who will continue to do so even after our live broadcast has ended, especially to those persons who've commented on our page. Raj, you, Griffith, Austin, for the comments and the questions. I did see a comment from an agency that they said they're always willing to help with regards to mental health. So it's very important. This is Crossroad Suicide and Mental Health. They're ready to help whichever country they're from. They didn't state. But these are the opportunities that can come from having forums such as this. So, to my panelists, a very, very big thank you to all of you, to all our viewers, our listeners, our contributors. A special thank you to all of you as well. On this note, this seems that we will be looking to have maybe another session like this coming up. So who knows? Please stay tuned. And I would like to give each one of the coaches just 10 seconds to say your thank you as we bring this session to an end. So I'll start with Coach Rose. Coach Rose, you're still muted.
Myself. It was a privilege to hear from you all and share your experiences. I think it's a good thing for people to hear about from us throughout the Caribbean. We have similar problems, yet we are so different as countries, as islands, and we should do it more often. Bring people together. It's a good initiative. Thank you.
Coach India, thank you very much, Coach Rose.
Just to add to what Rose is saying, collectively, we are absolutely brilliant, the entire Caribbean. I mean, looking at us, I'm just, again, very privileged and honored to be a part of the Caribbean team. We rock it. We do an amazing job for all of the communities, teams, our clients. We lead, we are the beacons. We are helping to lead our communities through. We see the light. It's about 300 miles away behind the door, but we see the light. So, and we're part of a huge network of other coaches who support us to be the best version of ourselves. So anybody who's looking, please get in touch with Action Coach offices. We will help you to get through this. We are committed and we know what we're about. Like I said, we have all the tools and processes and methodologies. All right.
Thank you very much, Coach Indira. We're brilliant, but you forget we're also very good looking. Coach Arthur.
Thank you, Coach Keon. Yes, for me, it's been a privilege to be able to participate and first of all, learn from what the other coaches are doing in the Caribbean, and hopefully I will have contributed also some knowledge so that not only the coaches, but especially the business owners out there know what to do to move forward. And just wanted to make sure to all the mothers out there, happy Mother's Day tomorrow. For those who didn't buy a gift yet, you still have a few hours.
Thank you very much, Coach Arthur. Coach Marcia.
All right, thank you so much. I just wanted to first of all say thank you both to Vishnu and to Keon for arranging this session. It was indeed a pleasure sharing with our Caribbean coaches here. And I just wanted to end with encourage. Tough times never last, but tough people do. This too will pass. We are tough, we are courageous, we will make it all the way through to the end. And as Indira said, we're here to help you. Each of us have committed to doing pro bono coaching sessions for business owners in our markets. So take advantage of that offer and let us continue to help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Marcia. Coach Dave?
Yes, I also want to thank you guys for being together and so we can share with our Caribbean community. I think this is the same way we have done it today. I think it's the same way and the same mentality that we have to take in every single community where people need to come together, need to collaborate together in order to get the best and get strong, get through this crisis and come out strong. And pivot and be better every single day. And hopefully that we all have contributed a little bit towards that. So thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to anytime to be able to help.
Thank you very much, Coach Dave. And Coach Vishnu, your final words.
Yep. Thank you very much to all the coaches in the Caribbean, Rose, Indy, Marcia, Arthur, Dave, for taking up our invitation. I know you guys are doing fantastic things in your markets. I know how you're supporting your clients at the moment. I follow your pages. I follow you. I see how they express their gratitude, and I really wanted to make sure that the wider Caribbean, and I see this is being shared all across the world right now. It's in the main Action Coach global group as well. That we all continue to inspire. It's easy with all this negativity for us to get bogged down and be worried, but there's a lot of good stuff happening as well. There's a lot of support that is there. So I really thank you, and I like to thank as well everyone who's been watching. Share the video. It's fantastic content so that many more can benefit from this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Coach Vishnu. And there you have it, guys. Our topic today on COVID-19 and its effects on businesses, Action Coach Caribbean perspective. Thank you all for tuning in, and make sure that you continue to stay safe and, of course, continue to use this as an opportunity and not letting the crisis paralyze you. So thank you guys very much, and stay safe.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.